Drama erupts after Hulk Hogan's death. Daughter versus ex-wife. Hulk Hogan's estranged daughter breaks her silence and slams Linda Hogan for demanding a share in the WWE icon's fortune. What really went down between Brooke Hogan and her father's ex-wife? The tension is real. In this explosive video, we dive deep into the emotional family fallout surrounding Hulk Hogan's estate. From Brooke's fiery response to Linda's shocking demands, this video reveals everything you didn't see in the headlines. If you're a fan of behind-the-scenes drama in the wrestling world, you don't want to miss this one. The world of professional wrestling has always blurred the lines between entertainment and reality. But what's unfolding behind closed doors after the passing of one of its biggest icons, Hulk Hogan, is not a scripted storyline. It's heartbreak, legacy, and betrayal, all wrapped into one explosive family feud that has left fans stunned and insiders whispering. This isn't just a story about a will or a fortune. This is about a fractured family, an estranged daughter, an ex-wife demanding more than her share, and the legacy of a man who once stood as the indestructible face of WWE. When news of Hulk Hogan's death broke, the wrestling world came to a halt. Tributes poured in from every corner of the industry. Wrestlers he mentored, fans who grew up idolizing him, and even those who once rivaled him in the ring offered heartfelt words of admiration and grief. But behind the heartfelt memorials and emotional tributes was a storm quietly brewing, a private war between the two women who once held central places in the Hulkster's life, his daughter Brooke Hogan and his former wife Linda Hogan. And now, that war has spilled into public view, exposing a tangled web of resentment, grief, and greed. Brooke Hogan, who had remained largely silent in the wake of her father's passing, finally broke down in a fiery, emotionally raw statement. In her own words, shared via a video message that quickly went viral, Brooke accused Linda of exploiting her father's death to claim a piece of a fortune she no longer had any moral right to. Her voice, thick with emotion, trembled as she said, she wasn't there when he needed her most. She walked away from the man who gave her everything. And now she wants to profit from his death? Absolutely not. It was a direct shot. No vague wording. No carefully crafted press release. Brooke's anger wasn't polished or rehearsed, it was visceral. And it ignited a media firestorm. Fans immediately took sides. Social media exploded with hashtags like #TeamBrooke and #JusticeForHulk. Some fans applauded Brooke for standing up for her father and defending his legacy, especially given the tumultuous and widely publicized nature of Hulk and Linda's divorce over a decade ago. Others questioned whether Brooke's outburst was a calculated move to stake her own claim to the estate before legal matters progressed too far. But those who know the family's history say this has been a long time coming, and Hulk Hogan's death was simply the match that lit the fuse. To truly understand the scale of this family feud, one has to look back at the years leading up to this explosive moment. Hulk Hogan, born Terry Bollea, was not just a larger-than-life figure in the ring. Off-camera, he struggled with personal demons, a highly publicized divorce, lawsuits, health battles, and most importantly, strained family ties. His divorce from Linda in 2009 was brutal. Allegations of infidelity, emotional abuse, and financial disputes flooded the tabloids. Linda walked away with a significant portion of Hogan's assets, including multiple properties and a hefty divorce settlement that nearly crippled the wrestler financially during one of the darkest periods of his life. But Brooke stuck by her father. Through the media circus, the leaked tapes, and the endless lawsuits, she was one of the few constants in his chaotic life. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was resilient. In many interviews over the years, Hulk credited Brooke with giving him a reason to keep fighting when the world turned against him. And now, in the aftermath of his death, Brooke is fiercely protective of both his image and his estate. Sources close to the Hogan family say that Linda's recent actions have reopened old wounds. According to court filings leaked to the press, Linda Hogan is petitioning for a significant share of Hulk Hogan's posthumous earnings, citing residual entitlements and previously agreed upon future royalties. But insiders say that Linda had been largely absent from Hulk's life in recent years, rarely communicating, not attending medical appointments, and reportedly refusing any offers of reconciliation, even as his health visibly declined. Brooke's frustration isn't just about money, it's about principle. Those close to her say she watched her father spend his final years in pain, often alone, quietly managing the toll decades in the ring had taken on his body. And while Brooke was reportedly by his side through multiple hospitalizations, surgeries, and emotional breakdowns, Linda was nowhere to be found. For Brooke, it's not just unjust for Linda to request a share of the estate, it's downright insulting. In the same video, Brooke went on to say, "You don't get to walk away from someone when they're at their lowest, then return like a vulture when they're gone. That's not love. That's not family. That's greed." The statement was met with thunderous support from many in the wrestling community. WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair, who shared a complicated but ultimately respectful friendship with Hogan, posted a cryptic message on X, formerly Twitter. "Some people only remember you when there's something left to take. Terry deserved better. Hashtag respect the legacy." Others, like former WWE champion Booker T, expressed disappointment over the public nature of the feud, calling for peace and dignity during a time of mourning. But Linda Hogan isn't staying silent either. In a surprising move, Linda responded not with a statement, but with legal action. Her attorneys have already filed a motion demanding that Hogan's estate be frozen until a full financial review is conducted. The motion claims that there are outstanding obligations from their divorce agreement that still entitle her to a portion of Hulk's posthumous earnings, especially from merchandise, image licensing, and streaming rights from WWE archives. This has only fueled the fire. Family friends say Brooke feels betrayed, not just by the legal claim, but by the implication that her father's memory is now being dragged into courtrooms and tabloid headlines instead of being honored with dignity. "She's grieving," one insider shared. "And now she's being forced to fight this legal battle at the exact moment she's trying to say goodbye. It's cruel." Behind the scenes, it's not just Brooke and Linda involved in the growing war over Hulk Hogan's legacy. Sources say that Hogan's current wife, Sky Daly, who he married in a small private ceremony less than a year before his death, has also been named in Linda's filings. Linda is reportedly challenging the legitimacy of Sky's access to Hogan's assets, suggesting the marriage was rushed and legally questionable. While Sky has yet to issue any public comment, those close to her say she is devastated by the accusations and concerned about how this feud might tarnish the memory of the man she loved. Legal experts familiar with estate disputes in celebrity families say this could be one of the most complex inheritance battles in recent memory. Not because of the amount of money involved, though Hogan's estate is estimated to be worth well over $30 million. But because of the emotional, historical, and public components at play. "You're not just dealing with money," one probate attorney explained. "You're dealing with decades of resentment, unresolved trauma, and the egos of people who have lived their lives in the spotlight." And indeed, the spotlight is as harsh as ever. TMZ, Page 6, and multiple wrestling-focused outlets have all jumped on the story, publishing timelines, exclusive interviews, and even audio clips from alleged private conversations. One such clip, allegedly featuring Brooke tearfully pleading with her late father's legal team not to give in to vultures, went viral in less than 24 hours. The clip, while unverified, struck a nerve with fans, many of whom feel protective of Hulk Hogan's legacy and are disheartened by the growing circus surrounding his passing. At the center of it all, Brooke remains defiant. She's reportedly hired her own legal counsel, separate from the estate, to ensure that her father's final wishes are honored. Insiders say she's also working with WWE officials to ensure that any future tributes to Hulk Hogan, including Hall of Fame segments, posthumous documentaries, and merchandise launches, reflect the man she knew. Not the chaos that has erupted in his absence. WWE itself has remained largely silent on the family drama, though sources indicate the company is closely monitoring the situation. With a planned tribute show reportedly in development, there are internal concerns that the legal feud could overshadow what was intended to be a heartfelt farewell to one of wrestling's most iconic figures. For fans, the drama is hard to watch. Hulk Hogan represented strength, perseverance, and larger-than-life charisma. But now, as the people closest to him tear each other apart, the image of the man they once cheered for feels increasingly fragile, and the question lingers. In the end, who really gets to define the legacy of Hulk Hogan? The daughter who stood by him through his darkest moments? The ex-wife who shared decades of life with him and now wants her piece of the aftermath? Or the fans who only want to remember the hero in red and yellow who told them to say their prayers, eat their vitamins, and never give up? As the legal battles unfold and the headlines continue to swirl, one thing is clear: this story is far from over. What was supposed to be a final chapter has instead become the opening act of a very different kind of drama. A family torn apart, a legacy in limbo, and a daughter who refuses to stay silent. If Brooke Hogan thought speaking her truth would be the end of the battle, she was wrong. The firestorm her statement ignited only intensified as the days passed. What started as a personal outcry of grief quickly evolved into a full-blown legal and emotional war zone, one that has now consumed Hogan's inner circle and drawn attention from media giants and legal experts alike. But at the heart of this chaos is a deeper question few dare to confront. What happens when love, loyalty, and legacy collide in the shadow of death? In a second, quieter video posted to her social media just 48 hours after the first, Brooke appeared visibly shaken. The confident fire that had lit her eyes earlier was replaced with a tired, war-torn sadness. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't lash out. Instead, she shared memories, quiet, painful, and deeply intimate recollections of her father. "I remember being 5, she said, her voice cracking, and him missing my school recital because he was in Japan wrestling. But when he came back, he brought me a necklace with my name engraved on it. I still have it. That's the man I remember. Not the headlines. Not the controversies. My dad." That moment shifted the narrative for many fans. Suddenly, this wasn't about courtrooms and inheritance, it was about memory. About the struggle of a daughter trying to protect the last pieces of her father that hadn't already been ripped apart by the media, public scrutiny, and now legal warfare. It was about grief. Meanwhile, Linda Hogan, perhaps sensing the tide of public opinion shifting, finally broke her own silence. But instead of a heartfelt message or an attempt to reconcile, she issued a cold, sharply worded statement through her attorney, emphasizing that emotions do not override legal agreements and reiterating her claim to fair compensation based on established legal precedent and binding financial documents. The statement also went on to accuse Brooke of weaponizing public opinion and deliberately distorting the timeline and nature of events leading up to Mr. Balia's passing. The backlash was swift. Fans took to the internet, blasting Linda for her perceived callousness. WWE forums lit up with threads calling for Linda to be blacklisted from any future tributes or public events honoring Hulk Hogan. One Reddit comment that quickly gained traction summed up the mood. She already took half once. Now she wants what's left of the man's dignity too. But some voices rose in her defense, pointing out that Linda had been by Hogan's side for decades, through the boom of the '80s wrestling era, through his Hollywood ventures, and during the early 2000s reality TV resurgence that put the Hogan family in front of a new generation. She was there before the surgeries, before the scandals, before the bankruptcy, one longtime fan posted. She helped build the brand. Maybe she does deserve a piece of the pie. And herein lies the tragedy. Both arguments carry weight. Linda Hogan was, for a time, more than just a spouse. She was a business partner, a caretaker, and the mother of Hulk's children. But as Brooke has made painfully clear, the final years of Hogan's life weren't shared with Linda. They were shared with those who chose to stay through the storm, not those who walked away when it hit. The tension between emotional truth and legal reality has reached a boiling point, and now lawyers on both sides are preparing for what could become a long and grueling courtroom battle. As of now, Linda Hogan's legal team has submitted a formal request for forensic accounting of Hulk Hogan's finances, including all residuals from merchandise, WWE contracts, and any streaming or licensing deals currently in effect or under negotiation. They've also petitioned to pause any further distribution of assets until the court can evaluate her claims. Brooke, meanwhile, has taken a different route. Rather than simply oppose Linda's claim, she's taken steps to launch what insiders are calling the Hogan Legacy Foundation, a charitable organization she claims was in discussion with her father months before his passing. The foundation's mission? To support young wrestlers, fund spinal injury research, and honor her father's commitment to giving back to the sport that made him famous. According to Brooke, this was Hulk's real wish, that his legacy be something more than a bank balance, a merchandise deal, or a fading highlight reel. Still, skeptics question the timing. Some legal commentators suggest the foundation is a strategic move to sway public and judicial sympathy in her favor. Others believe it's a genuine tribute. What can't be denied is the emotional weight behind it. In a tearful interview with a major network, Brooke explained he didn't want statues or stadiums. He wanted to help the kids coming up the way he did, with no roadmap, no safety net, just a dream. That's what this is about. But can a foundation outrun a lawsuit? Legal analysts say Brooke's emotional appeal may win over the public, but it will take more than sentiment to stop Linda's legal claims. This is going to come down to contracts, court documents, and timelines, one attorney told Rolling Stone. It doesn't matter how the public feels, what matters is what's on paper. And what's on paper, according to sources familiar with the Hogan estate, is complicated. Multiple amendments were reportedly made to Hulk Hogan's will over the past decade. Some were made during the peak of his legal battles with Gawker, others during hospital stays when he feared the worst. One version reportedly names Brooke as sole heir, while another, older version lists both children and includes partial entitlements for Linda under a now-expired clause from their divorce settlement. These discrepancies may become the core battleground of this legal war, each side presenting their preferred version of the will, each arguing that it represents Hogan's true final wishes. And while legal teams tear through records and depositions, the public watches on, divided, heartbroken, and stunned. To add to the emotional complexity, Nick Hogan, Hulk and Linda's son, has remained almost completely silent through it all. Sources say he's been living out of state and has intentionally stayed away from the spotlight. But this silence has raised its own set of questions. Is he choosing a side privately? Has he been cut out of the estate entirely? Or is he simply unwilling to add fuel to a fire already threatening to consume what's left of his family? Whatever the reason, his absence is felt, and many fans wonder if his eventual statement could shift the balance, either healing the divide or cracking it wide open. Amidst all of this, WWE finds itself in a precarious position. Executives had originally planned a grand tribute to Hulk Hogan, a network special, exclusive merchandise lines, and an in-ring memorial event slated for later in the year. But with the feud between Brooke and Linda spiraling out of control, the company is reportedly reconsidering the scale and timing of its plans. One WWE official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said, "We want to honor the man, not fan the flames. But we also can't ignore that this situation is rapidly becoming a public relations minefield. Every move we make will be dissected, every tribute, every image, every dollar." Fans have already noticed the delay. Posters once teasing the Legends Never Die tribute special have disappeared from WWE's website. Some speculate it's a result of ongoing legal advice, while others believe WWE is quietly waiting for the dust to settle, but the dust isn't settling. In fact, it's thickening by the day. Paparazzi have camped outside Brooke's home. Linda has been spotted entering her lawyer's office flanked by security. Tabloid headlines scream about inheritance wars, secret bank accounts, and the will that could destroy a dynasty. It's a media circus. And somewhere, beneath all the flashing cameras and endless headlines, lies the real tragedy. A man is gone. A daughter is grieving. And a legacy is being torn limb from limb in the public eye. Even some of Hogan's old rivals have spoken up. Bret the Hitman Hart, who had his own history of tension with Hogan, released a brief but poignant message. "We didn't always see eye to eye, but I respected the man. He deserved peace in life and especially in death. I hope his family can find some." Peace, however, seems like a distant dream right now. What should have been a time of unity, remembrance, and quiet reflection has become a battlefield. One filled not with ropes and turnbuckles, but with courtrooms, cameras, and bitter accusations. As the estate battle heads toward its first court hearing, all eyes are on Brooke Hogan and Linda Hogan, two women forever tied to the same man, now fighting not just over his memory, but over what that memory is worth. And as we wait for the next development, one truth becomes clearer than ever before. Hulk Hogan's greatest fight didn't happen in the ring. It's happening now, long after the final bell. A fight for legacy. A fight for dignity. And perhaps a final fight to prove that not everything is up for grabs, especially not a man's memory. As the courtroom date draws closer, the world continues to watch the Hogan family saga with a mix of fascination and sorrow. What started as a tragic loss has now spiraled into a relentless power struggle. And at the heart of it all is not just a fortune, but the soul of a legacy that spans generations, continents, and countless wrestling fans' childhoods. Reports have surfaced that Brooke Hogan has begun assembling a team not just of lawyers, but of publicists, archivists, and even former WWE producers. The goal? To begin curating her father's real story, the one she believes has been distorted by years of media sensationalism, scandal, and betrayal. According to insiders close to Brooke, she wants to release a documentary, an unfiltered, emotional telling of Hulk Hogan's final years. Not the tabloid tales, not the edited sound bites, but the human story of a father, a survivor, and ultimately, a man who loved his family, even when it was fractured beyond recognition. The project, tentatively titled Behind the Bandana, is already in pre-production. Early rumors suggest it will include never-before-seen footage of Hogan's private life, handwritten letters exchanged between him and Brooke during their most difficult years, and audio recordings from his hospital bed in his final weeks. For Brooke, this isn't just about legacy, it's about reclamation. Taking back control of her father's narrative from the hands of lawyers, ex-spouses, and opportunistic media outlets. But while Brooke moves forward with her campaign of legacy preservation, Linda is doubling down. Her legal team has now expanded to include celebrity estate specialists and forensic accountants. Their goal is not just to secure Linda's claimed share of the estate, but to prove, in court, that Hogan's financial decisions in his later years were made under emotional duress and undue influence. In short, they're laying the groundwork for a massive legal counteroffensive, one that could challenge the very structure of Hogan's final will and potentially invalidate key sections in favor of earlier agreements. This new development has rattled those closest to Brooke. A source inside the Hogan estate team told Variety, "This is war now. They're not just trying to take a cut of the money, they're trying to rewrite history. And Brooke isn't going to let that happen." And then there's Sky Daly, the woman who, for the last year of Hulk Hogan's life, was by his side as his wife. Though still quiet publicly, a letter allegedly written by Sky to Linda has leaked online. The contents of the letter, while not confirmed by either party, have caused a ripple of reaction across the fanbase. In the alleged letter, Sky writes, "You weren't there when he couldn't walk. You weren't there when he cried because the pain was too much. I held his hand in silence while he watched old matches, trying to remember the man he used to be. And now you come knocking, asking for a piece of a legacy you abandoned? I was there. You weren't." The letter has not been verified, but its emotional punch is undeniable. If true, it paints a brutal portrait of abandonment and late-life resilience. If fabricated, it's a cruel hoax that further muddies the waters of an already heartbreaking story. But either way, it's become the centerpiece of a new media debate. Who really stood by Hulk Hogan when it mattered? And in the court of public opinion, the answer seems increasingly clear. A recent online poll conducted by a wrestling media outlet showed that 78% of respondents side with Brooke and Sky, believing that Linda is acting out of greed rather than grief. But public opinion, as powerful as it may be, doesn't win court cases. Meanwhile, the WWE is now scrambling to adjust their upcoming plans. According to backstage leaks, Hogan was supposed to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for the second time. This time not as a solo inductee, but as part of a new Legends Legacy category that would recognize his influence beyond just the ring, as a cultural icon, a father, a trailblazer. But with the family drama intensifying by the week, executives are considering postponing the segment entirely. They fear a tribute could be overshadowed by boos, legal protests, or worse, public spectacle from feuding family members, and it's not just WWE facing pressure. Sponsors and merchandise partners are growing cautious. One major apparel line that had planned a Hulkamania Forever limited edition drop has reportedly paused production. Their concern? That the Hogan brand is becoming too toxic to touch, at least for now. For Brooke, this is more than just frustrating, it's devastating. Every new delay, every pulled product, every canceled tribute feels like another piece of her father being erased. He gave everything to this business, she said in a recent interview. His body, his mind, his peace. And now that he's gone, instead of honoring that, everyone's scrambling to protect their brand. What about his name? What about his soul? Her words struck a chord. But they also reopened old wounds. The Hogan name has always been surrounded by controversy, from leaked tapes to racial slurs to lawsuits. Hulk Hogan was not a perfect man. He was flawed, sometimes deeply so. But he was also a symbol of a time in wrestling when heroes wore red and yellow, said their prayers, and told kids to believe in something bigger than themselves. Now, in the absence of the man, that symbol is being pulled in every direction by grief, by greed, by memory. And by the simple human need to be seen as right. And where does all of this leave Nick Hogan? Still silent. Still absent. Insiders claim he's struggling. That he's in therapy. That he feels caught between two forces pulling him apart. On one hand, his loyalty to his mother, who stood by him during his own legal troubles. On the other, his love for a sister who has become the loudest voice in preserving their father's honor. Some sources even say Nick has already been contacted by both legal teams to testify, either to confirm or deny Linda's role in Hogan's final years. If he speaks, it could change everything. If he stays silent, it could doom Brooke's narrative. Either way, Nick's silence is now its own form of pressure, and fans are watching, waiting for him to tip the scales. Beyond the headlines, the courtrooms, and the interviews, there's a deeper sorrow here. One that doesn't make the news cycles or trend on Twitter. It's the sorrow of a daughter grieving a father she adored. The sorrow of a legacy being splintered into 1,000 competing versions. And the sorrow of a man, once the most powerful name in wrestling, being remembered not for what he built, but for what was torn apart after he left. And as the date for the court hearing draws near, the tension is palpable. Brooke Hogan has said she will attend the first court session in person. Not with legal documents or statements. Just with her father's bandana in her hand. He told me once, she recalled in a whisper during a late-night interview, that if I ever felt lost, to hold on to this and remember who I am. I'm not going to court to fight for money. I'm going to fight for him. For his name. But for every emotional vow, there is a legal counterstrike. Linda's lawyers are preparing to submit dozens of pages of financial records, claiming that Hulk Hogan had breached parts of their divorce settlement years ago, and that now in death, those debts must be paid. The Hogan estate is preparing to counterclaim, citing lack of involvement and moral abandonment. Sky Daily's attorneys are reviewing marriage certificates and joint asset filings. WWE is monitoring all of it closely, already drafting backup plans if the situation continues to escalate. And fans? Fans are left to watch from the sidelines, heartbroken. Heartbroken that the hero they once believed was immortal is gone. Heartbroken that his final legacy is being fought over like spoils of war. Heartbroken that family, something Hulk Hogan always claimed to value above all else, is now the very battlefield where his memory may be lost forever. As the courtroom doors open for the first hearing, the world holds its breath. The flashes of cameras erupt outside like lightning, each one capturing not just a moment in time, but the fractured aftermath of a wrestling titan's life. Brooke Hogan steps out of the black SUV, her face solemn, her body wrapped in a black coat, and clutched tightly in her right hand, her father's iconic red and yellow bandana, worn, faded, but powerful. It's not just fabric. It's a symbol of identity, of rebellion, of love. She doesn't speak to the press, not yet. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere is thick with tension. Lawyers shuffle binders and tap away on laptops. Court clerks whisper updates. The judge, an aging but stern figure known for handling high-profile estate cases, reviews the docket. Linda Hogan arrives next, escorted by her legal team. Her appearance is starkly different from Brooke's. Designer sunglasses, a tailored cream blazer. Calm, controlled, almost rehearsed. But there's something brittle in her smile. Something strained. She, too, knows that today will echo far beyond these courtroom walls.